I do not believe that the problems of society will be fixed by politicians alone.
I've never seen so many CEOs that, pardon the language, seem chicken shit.
We have the most prosperous nation the world's ever seen, the most innovation the world's ever seen, but we should acknowledge the problems and try to fix them.
Jamie Dimon, welcome to the Axios show.
Happy to be here.
So I really want to focus on the sort of the future according to Jamie Dimon through your eyes. Running a business and sort of studying the world right now, I can't recall, certainly in my lifetime, this much risk. It feels like there's risk everywhere, whether it's Ukraine, whether it's in Iran, whether it's private credit, whether it's the entire political system, whether it's debt. Am I right?
Partially. I would put some of the stuff, private credit, and stuff is kind of normal risk. I do think the war in Ukraine, the war in Iran, the terrorism around the world, our relationship with China, I do think there's more geopolitical risk than we've seen since World War II. That's absolutely correct. So when we look at that, can it play out in a way that's good, where we get, I think like in the Middle East, it's possible they end up with a situation with a higher chance with long-term peace because Saudi Arabia wants it, UAE wants it, America wants it, Israel wants it, and we've destroyed, for the most part, some of the really bad proxy actors there. So maybe it's a higher chance. In the short run, it does create more risk. Engaging with China, we are engaging. Again, I think we have a very good hand. We have all the food, war, and energy we need, most prosperous nation, best military. They've done a great job on certain technologies, but their GDP per person is 15,000. Their neighborhood is very complex. They have, and they've pissed them all off. Korea, South Korea, Vietnam, Philippines, Australia, Japan, Indonesia. Though it's a complex part of the world. So I tell
pissed off our fair share of people.
Yeah, we have, but we still are the bastion of freedom for the world.
We had an interview with Vladimir Zelensky today, president of Ukraine, and he said one of the big winners of the Iran war is undoubtedly Russia. I think you and I would agree that China has been a big beneficiary of our war in Iran. It is a war of choice. Are we handing sort of this golden opportunity to China and to Russia?
Yeah, I would step back on that one a little bit. When you say it's a war of choice, I've heard a lot of people say there was no imminent threat.
Yeah.
And a threat means that it hasn't happened yet. The bad thing hasn't happened. They've been killing people around the world for 45 plus years. They've killed a lot of Americans. They funded not just Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis. They have terrorist cells here. They were about to get their ballistic missiles, which I think you just found out can go almost 3,000 miles now. They never gave up nuclear. They were bad. So I don't look at this like, does it create all this uncertainty? Absolutely. Does it create, more short-term risk for the oil prices? Absolutely. I'm praying it ends well. I don't know everything the American government knows. I don't know, if the military has been planning things like this extensively in a lot of detail. So they know more than we do. They have more plans than we do. And I literally hope it turns out well and that somehow we get peace in the Middle East permanently. But having those folks, their throat on the Straits of Hormuz and funding all these proxy wars, why the Western world put up these proxy wars for 45 years, is kind of beyond me. So, I don't know what all the facts were about why now. I agree with you. It creates risk.
When you think about domestic risk, like what is the biggest domestic risk to keeping this country rocking?
I always say that there's no even America has no divine right to success.
Right.
And, we have the Constitution, which is extraordinary. That's the embodiment of values. So it's the legal embodiment of freedom of enterprise, liberty, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, equal opportunity. That's what that is. And those values are actually the things that are strong for America, including God, family, country, work ethic. I think we've gotten a little bit soft. I think we made a huge mistake in not teaching this much more in the schools. Did America have failures? Absolutely. Should we look at that and tear down what this unbelievable country's done? Absolutely not. So the real risk is our heart, our soul, our grit, our courage. That is the actual real risk because that will drive the economy. And, America's military strength is predicated upon America's economic strength. Our economic strength is predicated on keeping this wonderful system going, fixing it where it did something wrong. But there's too much today, like just tearing it down. And it quite bothers me that we don't celebrate the values and virtues, particularly in this 250th year of the anniversary. So I am worried about that. It is a troubled time, but we're going to get through this too.
You mentioned artificial intelligence. You've said you're net optimistic. You think it'll be a net positive. You're also very realistic that it's going to cause some level of job displacement. You've also heard the bigger debate. You have some of the creators who talk about this thing doing some pretty scary stuff that probably explains why the polls are not great for artificial intelligence. What is your single greatest fear about AI that it could do?
Well, I'm going to stay away from the military stuff.
Yeah.
I think, but my would be cyber. I mean, our biggest risk, like here, is cyber. And, for America and even these wars, there's a cyber component to this. And I think AI makes these agents make cyber far worse. And so that might be the biggest one. I think for the American
Have you been briefed on the new
Yes.
Anthropic
Yeah.
technology? It's
Yeah.
scary.
Yeah.
Like, we should be honest. Like,
Yeah.
they're talking about it being so good that they feel like there could be a catastrophic cyber attack
Yeah.
this year and that there's no way you could defend it. That's crazy, right?
Remember, it was built to defend, but it's a weapon that could be used to attack. So that's why they're not going to use it to attack. And you should. I've been worried about this. I've written about it for years. That cyber is huge and it's getting worse every single year. Now, of course, America's got unbelievable cyber capabilities too. So anything that closes down part of America, you can assume will close down part of our adversaries, if not more. But I do think it makes people worried about the job part. And so while maybe in the long run, I really think some developed nations, people might be working 3.5 or 4 days a week, living longer, curing cancers, no airplane crashes, no car crashes. That's unbelievable.
Yep.
But if it happens too fast, what do you do? And that's why my view, like I do at JPMorgan, okay, anticipate what might be a risk.
Right.
We don't know, but not knowing and thinking it's possible, what are you going to do? So JPMorgan is going to, and we always did this, but we're going to really double down, reskill, retrain, relocate, use AI to serve a client, and unabashedly, but make sure we take care of our people. And I think the country can do that, done the right way. So
you and I talk to a ton of CEOs. You more than I. I've yet to talk to anyone who's not planning to cut a significant number of jobs in the next 2 years as a result of this. I agree it could be great in the long run, but shouldn't we be more honest with the American people that it could be really, really painful?
I think, but remember, so there are shortages in tons of jobs today. They're blue collar, but they're hard jobs. I mean, I remember going to a place that taught kids or even people who were 45 years old how to manage advanced manufacturing tools. We call it a blue-collar job, but you're basically managing a computer that manages the tool. We have jobs everywhere like that. And we need more welders, more electricians, more plumbers, and these become very sophisticated jobs. So, and then high schools, community colleges, unions do a very good job at this, training people. So I kind of agree with you. I think if we kind of get our act together and plan for this, we can handle the negative outcome. The other thing is, remember, there are a lot of things that AI will not barely affect. So it isn't like it's going to affect every job. It's going to affect a lot of jobs. What it does with government jobs, I don't know. Police, firemen, I don't know. I mean, so we should take a deep breath.
You're an optimist, obviously, but you've also talked to the Sam Altmans, the Elons of the world. They talk about like even a P-doom, this idea of the percentage chance that this ends catastrophically.
Well, they're talking about something else too.
They're talking about the ability of this technology to move outside the control of humans and do something. When they say P-doom, they're literally talking about destroying us as a species.
Yeah.
Like, do you have any fear of that, or is that hype?
I don't have a fear of that yet.
None.
I read the same stuff you read, and I do think you need some kind of guardrails around it. I think we're also very smart. We'll probably build some guardrails. So we do a lot of work in that. I don't see that personally, but you could come up with Odyssey 2000, see that maybe Hal can lose control a little bit.
Hey everyone, thank you for watching the Axios show. We're going to take a quick break so you can get a word from our sponsor.
When it's not always raining, there'll be days like this. When there's no one complaining,
You're good to me.
there'll be days like this. My mama
This
told
way is
me
way faster.
there'll be days like this.
People are down on big business, they're down on media, they're down on government. Like there's been almost just like institutional decay. the one group of people they seem to trust are the people running their specific business. I feel like never in my life have the employees and the public needed to hear more from CEOs. And yet it seems like in this environment, I've never seen so many CEOs that, pardon the language, seem chicken shit to speak any truth internally or externally. Why?
This has been going on for a long time with this. I don't trust doctors, trust my doctor. I don't like politicians. I like my congressman. I don't like banks. I love my bank. JPMorgan is very trusted by our clients. So it's not true that it's not trusted. It's very trusted. In fact, more trusted than people think. And I think that you just said it, inside a company, these CEOs are trusted people. They're not distrusted by the local communities. Most of them are very pro-government, pro-help, pro-community, pro-America, patriot. Well, but if you go back in history, CEOs didn't comment on, I get asked by, of course, all my Democratic friends, you got to say something. I said, you didn't ask me to say something every time I didn't agree with Biden or Obama. But CEOs aren't used to commenting on every single policy that comes out there. But I do agree with you on this, and this is a major point to me. We, business, made a mistake by not getting more involved earlier. I do not believe that the problems of society will be fixed by politicians alone. That's not an insult to politicians. Most of the really good ones, they want help to figure things out. And we, business, kind of step back. That's what happened in Europe, where, the political leadership class became a permanent political leadership class. And I think it ended up being a mistake. So I do agree with that point that we should step forward and do things that are good for the country. Like John F. Kennedy said, don't ask what the country could do for you, ask what you could do for the country. And we've got to have a little bit more of that spirit.
But isn't that silence coming from fear? They just fear that Trump's going to kick the hell out of them or not give them a deal or punish them?
But there may be some of that, but that
a
was
lot
true.
Of it.
I don't know. That was true under all presidents. They didn't speak up. They didn't say, I'm against that policy of this president, or something like that, generally. And I understand that. But look, maybe more should speak up. But
well, put me in the head. You're a CEO. Take the viewer inside your head. When you probably look at the president like picking on Greenland or bullying Canada or on again, off again tariffs or some of the grifting that you see on the outside, and maybe you want to say something. How fearful are you to speak the truth?
I'm not. I want I think, look, this is the important part. You can't comment on every little thing, and particularly when people make statements that they're going to modify later. So you guys are always chasing your tails because he's like putting out the lure out there, and the press all goes running to it, and they waste so much time. So take immigration. We should all be embarrassed that we now have immigration border control that we didn't have. And when we didn't have it, everyone said, well, it can't be done. It's hard to do. Well, no, actually it got done damn quickly. And we need border security. We need to decide who enters our country. This has become a major problem around the world. There's even a bigger problem in Europe because most of the people entering our country here want to be American citizens.
Right.
They want to work. Okay, now that we've done that, the BRT's always supported a path to citizenship for law-abiding folks. I've heard President Trump say that every now and then. Absolutely. He hires some of them. DACA stays, more merit-based, proper asylum, the things that 80% of Americans say, absolutely.
What is your single biggest disappointment about President Trump?
I don't want to say here.
But doesn't that speak to the fear?
No, I'm not afraid of it. I just think sometimes he raises some wonderful issues, that things that universities should have been doing a better job at. And, but I'm not in favor of taking away all their R&D. So it's more like that. You got to slice that catch sometimes. And,
but like tariffs or like the micromanaging business deals, you like that?
No, so tariffs. Okay, tariffs are a very small part of our economic relations with countries. There are some unfair things that countries are doing, and it got the people at the table. I'd like to finish the trade deals. I would do bigger trade deals with people and bigger free trade agreements, which I've heard him say he would do too. So what's the other subject you raised?
But it does seem like you're fearful. I mean, you do have strong opinions.
No,
you would assess Joe Biden.
You got to go through every single one. So I'm happy that the government and more the Department of War did this deal for MP materials. If you want to build rare earths here, we have to do things like that. We give them kind of outtake agreements. Otherwise, it won't work. But I haven't evaluated every single deal they did. I think we should be very careful when government gets involved in that. But government's got involved in 0.01% of stuff. It isn't like they got involved in everything. So But they should be careful. If they're going to do things like that, it should be very, very well thought through.
Let me ask a question about the nature of power and this city that I get from a lot of people. You guys banked Jeffrey Epstein, but you've talked about, you guys had settlements on that. I don't want to talk about that. I want to go a layer deeper. Like, the powerful, you've banked a lot of these people, you hang out with a lot of these people. It's not just that Jeffrey Epstein was like a bad guy. He was like a burn in hell for eternity, awful human being. And people knew about it, and they still socialized. They still did business with him. Like, why were people so quick and easy to forgive his sins?
Well, I don't think they were. In 2008, he went to jail for prostitution or something like that, which wasn't considered a terrible crime of some sort. If you actually read, and one of the mistakes we made, if you actually read what they call it, the pleadings, they were pretty clear that it was much worse than that they settled here, but they thought here. And the other thing you guys should be asking is, the government knew a lot. Why didn't the government do something about it? All those years he was abusing these young women from, they knew. So, but you're right. I think someone wrote a great article today. It was more about his connections, that why all these people got together, and it was embarrassing for them, and I don't know why. I think some people, they'll do anything to be in the inside club or something like that. And introducing people. I think some people they're innocent. They didn't know. Some knew.
Didn't. But if you were in Palm Beach, you knew he was running a Ponzi scheme with these young women coming in and out, and yet people continue to do. It's so.
I agree. I agree. I think it's why people like him stay away from someone like me, because I would have been like, what the hell are you doing? I learned this lesson years ago that if someone calls me, if you called me up and said, you want to introduce me to so-and-so to dine and meet, my answer would be to you, here's my telephone number, have them call me directly. I wouldn't put up with like being introduced to people by people for very reasons like that, and because I don't want to be in between, or like someone's doing a favor for someone, or sometimes you don't even is true. Like they're asking me to call that person, or can I bring them by? I'm like, well, why?
When you talk about the heart, the beating heart, like that's what worries you. You got to keep that alive. Like, our politics is fundamentally broken. You and I have talked about it forever. You get this question all the time. I get it. Like, doesn't the country need a third party, one built on competence, that's pro-business and pro-worker, pro-AI, and spreading the benefits, that's tough but doesn't have to smack talk and make people feel like crap about themselves? Does a country need that?
Maybe. Every analysis I've seen makes it very hard because of our system. The two parties, if you're going to run for president and as an independent, you got to get over 50% electoral votes. That's really hard to do when you got the two parties who are probably going to get 27%, a minimum 7% electoral votes. And then it goes to the House, and they decide, and usually going to pick whatever party's in charge of the House. But I think you might see that over time.
Do we need it?
I don't know if we need it. Leaders come along that are different and change things for people, and we'll see.
People ask you all the time to run. Would you ever run as a third-party candidate?
No, I don't think so.
Would you ever run as a Democrat or a Republican?
It's hard. I'm very hard-pressed to think I should be doing something like that.
No chance.
I love what I do.
Yeah,
pretty much no
chance.
But
you do get asked all the time, right?
Yeah, I do get asked, but I'm not sure I'm suited to it. I've never been in I've never been in any campaign at all. I don't even know. And then, you have to go.
Stuff.
I've run stuff, yeah, but I'm a banker. I'm a New Yorker.
Right.
I'm 70 years old. I've had a couple of health problems. It's just probably not me. Plus, I love what I do. Like, from this platform, I can help so many things. Running for president is kind of quixotic.
Yep.
I'd have to give up this to do something else that's quixotic. So I'm not sure it makes sense. Plus, we're so tough on our politicians. We just annihilate them. And I just think it's wrong. I don't know what to do about that.
Yeah.
And their families, and then their families for, generations almost. And so it's hard to subject your family to that. And anyone who does it, I applaud, but it's hard.
The anger, mistrust of the rich, the powerful seems to keep rising. Do you assume that there'll be an anti-AI, anti-rich and powerful nominee for either the Republican or the Democratic Party in 2028 when you look at the trajectory of things?
I think it's possible, but unlikely. I think there will be a lot of not anti-AI, but people saying we've got to control AI. We've got to make it work for society. That's a perfectly reasonable thing. I think if someone's just anti-AI, I think that won't work. I mean, you know how many citizens already use it on Gemini and things like that? And you use it.
Yeah.
When I read your stuff, which I read all the time, you know, you acknowledge that you're using AI to get
Right.
smarter and write things and stuff like that. So, and the anti-rich thing has been around a long time, and I do understand it because I think separated into two pieces. The piece that's really important is that we have, in fact, left the lower income folks behind.
Democrats are less popular than the war, less popular than ICE after these raids and shootings in Minneapolis. Like, if there were a stock, you'd probably short them. Like, what happened?
I think they just got too far to the left and too anti-business and too lack of common sense. I mean, when I look at things like a lot of, is climate a real issue? Yeah, it is. Did we do a lot of stuff that was intensely stupid? We did. And people know that. Did we overdo DEI in a lot of cases? Yeah, we did. And people know that. We look at, do people believe that Washington is not a swamp? Like, who on this show thinks that we give Washington another $1 trillion, that it would be well spent as opposed to go out to their own special interest groups? The inefficiency they see in the system is extraordinary. And, the litigation is extraordinary. The deficit, as you already mentioned, is too high. And so I think we made people kind of shocked. But I think what'll happen to the Democratic Party, because I speak to my Democratic friends all the time, it won't be that someone figures out what they should do and how they're going to do it and how they should say it. It'll be when someone comes along who's a leader and says, this is what we're doing. We're not doing that, and we're going to do this, which will include the heart and soul of America, not dragging down America, not blaming successful people for everything, but actually saying, we're going to fix the schools. If we have a problem, we're going to fix them. We're going to keep the strongest military. We're going to lift up our lower paid people. Like, I would double the earned income tax credit. I think it's to be the best way to get the money into the hands of lower income people. I would judge schools on outcomes. Do these kids get jobs, and what do the jobs pay? There are solutions to these problems, and we've messed up lots of these policies. And so it is time to, look at our permitting. I mean, it's almost a joke now when you try to get something built in a lot of states, and it takes so long. And so let's roll up our sleeves, figure out what problems are, attack the problems. And I do think you'll see hopefully a Democratic leader come forward who does that. And you had that with Clinton, okay? And it isn't that the party figure out the words, is there's a person who comes forward, figures out how they want to lead, and then leads.
It feels like an all hands on deck moment, given like the complexities and the different problems that the country has. Not saying they would run for office or what they would do, but like, who are 2 or 3 people that you just wish were actively engaged in fixing America's problems?
Oh, God.
Who would give people hope and inspiration based on their competence?
Yeah, I can't answer that question. I don't want to answer it. I mentioned the names will be pissed off. Plus, I have to give it some thought. I haven't thought that through. Look, there are people, I remind people, we didn't know about Barack Obama 2 years before his election.
Right.
We didn't know about John F. Kennedy, really. We didn't know about Clinton. We didn't know about George W. Bush. We did know about Hillary Clinton and George H.W. Bush. We didn't know about Trump before his first election. We probably didn't believe about Trump before his second election. Someone can come forth. People emerge, they become leaders of a group that take the group, but they have to be a leader. They cannot be pandering to every little part of their party. That does not work. And they have to they have to have common sense. They can't just come forward and say, the way I'm going to fix this is I'm going to have a CHIPS Act, but make it a jobs program. People know that doesn't work. And so if you're going to do something, do it in a way that actually works, explain it to the people. And if you make a mistake, admit you made a mistake and change course.
3 years from now, are you still in your gig here at JPMorgan Chase?
I don't know. I'll still be here, and obviously that's up to the board. I love what I do. I'm devoted to doing it. We've got absolute fabulous team members. And when I move on from CEO, the current plan would be that I stay as executive chairman for a while. So we'll see.
David Sinclair and others say that we're 5 years away from escape velocity. You'll start to reverse age. So if you can hold out for 5 years, you can do it forever.
Yeah, it'd be great. Yes. I do think the next generation will live to 100 without all the diseases we've had and stuff like that. They'll be very lucky.
Will they live far behind 100? Will they live forever?
I don't know. I think it may not forever, but longer.
I thought I read somewhere that you want to start a media company. Really?
Well, look, you uniquely know, because I met with these guys when they set up Axios. I would have probably funded the whole thing because out of the respect I had for you. I would never have gotten involved in the editorial stuff, but we both agreed it would be bad for you and it would be bad for JPMorgan because we couldn't advertise in Axios, something like that. So I think
Would you really do it?
this, yeah, maybe it won't be this. It'll be something different about policy, but I think educating people is unbelievably important. So I put the education you get in school. I think media is critical. Media teaches everybody. The media is the great influencer. We all wake up in the morning, we read media. I read an awful lot. But if you think of senators, congressmen, administrative officials, regulators, governors, mayors, and all of their staff. Remember, very often it's their staff who's reading you that is learning to do something, and we have to do a good job at that. And in some ways we haven't. Like I look at a lot of bad policy, it's because the people who write policy didn't do a good job and the media doesn't explain it well and kind of flip-flop and back and forth. And I think most of the problems we have are fixable. The political issues are tough, but the actual policy can be fixed. But it'll never be fixed if you don't acknowledge there's a problem. If we don't acknowledge that our inner city schools are not doing a good job, we cannot fix it.
Do you agree with Elon that we'll one day have to pay people not to work?
I think that's too far in the future. I think work gives you purpose. Okay, so
Yes.
I think there'll be plenty of work and plenty. I think people have more time for love and family and hiking and reading history and things, which are all great pleasures. I remind people in this AI world, you're still going to have to do those things. So you have to make babies. You still have to take care of them. You're still going to have to eat. You're still going to have to go for a hike. You're
Right.
still going to want to go skiing. You're still going to want to love the arts and love the science and love just the knowledge. But purpose is a wonderful thing in life, and that's what pursuit of happiness is. It's like having a purpose that you're pursuing, whatever that purpose is. Doesn't have to be business, it could be art, it could be teaching, it could be media, educating people. And so I think that purpose is important. I think if people didn't have a purpose in life, they'd be really hard.
Well, what's the dumbest piece of business advice you hear people give?
Have a legacy.
Right, where you'll be dead.
Yeah, no, it's like just do what you do really well, and then when you're gone, people say, he or she, made the world a better place, as opposed to I've got to come up with something unique and different so I can make a name for myself. I always say if a CEO says they have to have a legacy, sell the stock.
Jamie Dimon, thank you
Jim,
very much.
thank you.